Welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I'm Ralph Demetrius, one of the astrologers. The portrait this week is of Scarlett Johannson, a very famous actress known for her work in the Avengers series. And this is actually part of our multi-part series on actresses that work in action roles. It's a very interesting group. It was supposed to be a 16-part series. I forgot to include Scarlett, so it became a 17-part series. There you go. But she really deserves to be in there, especially when we look at the chart. Now, you can find our portraits. Every Tuesday we post them. You can find them at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube. When you go there, please subscribe. Push that little red button so you'll be reminded. It's a big help to us. Also, you can also find them, links to them at planetarycalendar.com, where you can, of course, find the planetary calendar, which helps guide you through the year. Now, Scarlett is quite well known in part because of her participation in the Avengers series. And it's interesting because in that she's always wearing black leather, right? And she plays the Black Widow. And it's so appropriate to her chart because even though she's a Sagittarian and born at sunrise, she has a stellium, well, Pluto, Saturn, and the moon in Scorpio, which is the definition of black leather. She's born on November 22nd, 1984, at 7 a.m., right about dawn, in New York City, New York. So she's born with the sun at 00 degrees, 22 minutes, Sagittarius. Right over the lines. And a lot of times that first degree of a sign is very powerful, just like the last degree. Her rising is 1 degree Sagittarius. Now realize we have 7 o'clock, so maybe the time is right, maybe it's not, because maybe it's an approximate. On the other hand, my two children were both born right on the half hour, and I know because I was looking at the clock, right at the half hour. So sometimes people are born right on the hour or right on the half hour. What else is near the rising besides the sun? Uranus. Uranus at the rising, and it's loosely conjunct the sun. The sun's at 0 degrees, Uranus is at 12 degrees. Traditionally, we would normally consider a conjunction to the sun 12 to 15 degrees. I mean, years ago, because the sun's aura is so large. Having the sun and the Uranus close together makes the person very exciting. It gives them a lot of sizzle. When you put that Uranus at the rising, it really adds to that, it really illuminates that. Now, this is where it gets real interesting. And really, you see someone who works in the movies. Her moon is in Scorpio, 24 degrees, in the 12th house. One of the things you see a great deal in movie actors and actresses, or really any kind of actor, is a very, very active 12th house. You also see it in directors. 12th house is the house of the imagination. It's the house of the studio, the protected space. Not only does she have the moon there, she has Pluto, Saturn, so Pluto, drive in Scorpio, Saturn, ambition, the part of fortune, her connection to the earth, and her south node, all in Scorpio, all in the 12th house. It is practically the busiest house in her chart, only maybe equaled by the second house, the house of money in the bank, and I suspect that she has quite a bit of money in the bank, because there she has Neptune in Capricorn, Venus in Capricorn, Jupiter in Capricorn, and also Astraea, which relates to legal issues. But Jupiter and Venus conjunct at 10 and 12 degrees Capricorn. Neptune at 0 degrees. So Neptune, imagination, is one of her resources. Venus in Capricorn, disciplined artistry. Jupiter in Capricorn, physical endurance, which I think acting of this type especially takes that, especially when you consider that so much of the roles that she has become famous for are action roles. I mean, there's a lot of times when she's wired to things and flying through the air. I mean, this is very acrobatic. Now there's also, you have Capricorn is very strong. You have Scorpio, and it's very strong. And these two signs are sextile to each other, so they're supportive, kind of like favorite cousins, right? But what's really interesting about this chart is, that Martial Scorpio is really powerful in her chart. I mean, this is a person with great drive, physical dexterity, also a very disciplined sense of art, very, very responsible with all that Capricorn there. But Sagittarius is, after all, the sign of the athlete. Uranus, Mercury is also there, so the willingness to communicate. This would be someone with a very good sense of humor. Up in the 11th house, she has 3 asteroids. Juno, actually 2 asteroids and a nodal point. Juno, the asteroid of marriage. Vesta, the asteroid of our beliefs. In Libra, the arts, but also Selena. And Selena a lot of times has to do with where we're just really nice. I mean, Selena's it's a nodal point. It's just has to do with where we're really nice to people. And it's in the 11th house, community. So this would be someone who's really good to their friends. Someone who really believes in friendships and making partnerships with friends. When she's working with a group of actors, she probably is just a lovely person to work with. Besides that, Mercury and Sagittarius at the rising tends to give her a very quick wit. A very quick, sense of humor. The Venus in Capricorn, Jupiter in Capricorn shows that she takes the arts really seriously. Now, who's left there? Mars. Mars is always important in the charts of these people who do action roles. Her Mars is in Aquarius. Isn't that interesting? It's in Aquarius. I mean, Mars in Aquarius is, it's a very intellectual position. But it's also a position that thinks very broadly. I mean, Mars in Aquarius is very sensitive to energy, for instance, very sensitive to electromagnetic fields. It is a position that would work very, very well on screen and with technology. And it's in the 3rd house of communication. It probably means that she is one of these people who really communicates well with a camera. They used to say with Marilyn Monroe, she was tremendously good at working with the camera, of really addressing herself to the camera. And it may be that Scarlett Johannson in her body language and such is really good at that. And it's truth. When you see her on the screen, she really has this great sense of physicality to her that comes partially from that Sag, but also probably comes from that Mars in Aquarius. But here's where it gets real interesting. When you look at the charts, right, and I've said this recently in another portrait, I think, that when you look at a chart, you look at it kind of like a seating diagram for a wedding or a party. People say, I look at a chart, I don't understand it. No. Think of it as a seating chart at a wedding. Mom is the moon, the sun is the dad, Saturn is grandpa or grandma, Jupiter is, your favorite uncle or aunt. Mars is, the young guys, and Venus is the pretty girl. Mercury are the young kids. You look at this. And then the outer planets are kind of, there are players there as well, but it's less personal, you might say. And then see who's sitting with whom. Well, in her chart, the sun is sitting kind of close to Uranus, which I think it was kind of look like, the crazy uncle, or the eccentric uncle. The moon, the mom, is sitting with who? Saturn, with grandma. Right, because it's all feminine signs, so it's grandma, Saturn in Scorpio, grandma. If it was Saturn in Aquarius, it'd be grandpa, right? Or Saturn in Sag, grandpa. But mom in Scorpio, who is in Scorpio is the sign of feminine power, is sitting with grandma. So all the money in this family comes down through the women, right? Mercury is running between the sun and Venus, right? The pretty girl. And the pretty girl is sitting with the favorite aunt because they're both in feminine signs, right? Venus in Capricorn, Jupiter in Capricorn. And Mars is kind of all by himself. Mars in Aquarius is all by himself in Aquarius, probably texting or something because it's in Aquarius. But what's interesting is that they're all on the eastern side of the chart. Now, charts have these dynamics, left side right side, left side. The left side of the chart is the eastern side of the chart. It has to do with where we initiate things. It's about us, ourselves. It's the same thing you see in Feng Shui. When you walk into a space, the left side of the space is about me, about mine. The right side of the space is about we, it's about ours. You put your right hand out to greet other people, but you hold a baby, you put their head over your left side till you hear your heart. It's the same thing in the chart. The left side is me, the right side is we. Everything in her chart is on the left side. This is someone who's very focused on their program. They're not as concerned with being engaged with others. They're concerned with what they can accomplish. This is a very self-motivated person. Now, the fact that the 12th house and the second house, actually it's the 12th, first, and second, are so strong. She was really drawn to movies. She was really drawn to the big vision of what could be accomplished. She likes working in these big groups, in these big movies, in these big fantasies. She likes that. She likes that community. She shines there. And that's very unusual. Many of the actresses we've looked at in this group, like Jessica Chastain, for instance, the chart's mostly up in the sky. It's up overhead. There's a balance between, what she wants and what other people want. And it's very out there in the open. With Scarlett Johannson, there's a part of her that's very hidden. That Uranus is below the horizon. She's someone probably is very sensitive to other people in her space. That Uranus at the rising tends to make people very hypersensitive to her. Things coming in from outside, it makes her kind of what you'd call, the term is fey. She's very intuitive. She picks things up. Sagittarians many times are. Sagittarius strong in the chart. A Sagittarius moon is like that. They pick things up without knowing where they come from. Because of the second house, she's very, very private about her finances. Very private, very conservative, kind of hardworking, but it's her stuff. It's her secret. She doesn't want to share that. But she doesn't like it being out there in the open. It's my connections, The 12th house is almost always available to everyone. It's her movie life, and yet it's still separated from the world. And once you go up into those very social houses, she has no major planets there. She's not someone who really wants to be out in the world. She wants to create the world that she wants and live within it. That's cool. Very interesting. And you get that sense of strong inner determination from her. Now, what's really funny is I was looking at other charts to do, and that combination of the sun in Sagittarius at the rising and the moon in the 12th house, in a very, very busy 12th house, I ran across another chart with that same pattern. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was born at sunrise in Sagittarius with the moon in the 12th house in Scorpio with, in his case, Venus, Mars, and Mercury. A very, very busy 12th house. And of course, it's on the movie set that Bruce Lee really shined. With him, it's a little different. He has more planets off on the west side. His relationships with other people were very important. He has a very busy 6th house. So teaching others was very important to him. With Scarlett Johannson, the one things that are really prominent in the west of the chart is Chiron in the 7th house. She has real distinct lessons related to relationships that she really has to go through, that, in terms of being hopeful for relationships and then maybe realizing that they're not quite like her. And the other thing that's interesting is that in the 6th house, the house of health, she has the North Node there in Taurus. She really gets a lot from understanding how she's supposed to eat. Diet is one of these areas that, and nutrition is an area that she really gets a lot out of. She really finds benefits. And she has series there. And kind of guiding how the people around her eat is actually something that she's very good at. It's funny. It's kind of the one place where she really kind of goes beyond her own programming and says, you guys have to eat better if you're going to work around me. Funny. And she has that talent to be, a very good manager of others. All that Scorpio in the chart, they're just natural born manager. So that's the chart of Scarlett Johannson. Make sure you come and see us on Tuesdays when we post our portraits, and then we post our forecast for the coming week on Fridays each week. You can find those at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube. You can also find links to them at our website, planetarycalendar.com, and that's where you'll find the planetary calendar that we've been talking about, which will help you guide you through the year. And of course, we always have, we typically have those available for sale, but we always suggest get yours early because we do run out. So until next time, be well.